Hi friends, hello, happy Thursday. Welcome to Craft Your Joy Live. I'm Lisa Hetrick. I'm super excited to be here. Today is the kickoff of the holiday series. I've been promising it. Last year we did a holiday series of tags and we talked about colored pencils and watercolor pencils. Those videos are still here on my channel. This series is going to be a little bit different. You know, I'm always trying to mash up watercolor techniques with different kinds of stamps from my collection. We are going to make projects together that are not necessarily cards. So today's project is going to be an ornament, but all of the techniques that I'm teaching you over the next 3 to 4 videos in this holiday series, in this live holiday series, you're going to be able to adapt to your card projects, and I'm going to talk you through that. So, all right, friends, that's what we're going to do. I see people popping in. It's super exciting. I'm going to take a peek at who's here. Hi, Rhonda, Kathy. Hello, Cherie, Elizabeth, Dawn, Catherine, Mariette. Oh, hello, Mariette from British Columbia. Judith and Pamela is joining us from Facebook. So super fun. Okay. There are already quite a few of you here today, this morning, and we're just going to dive right in. Now, a couple little things. Hi, Mary. If you have questions along the way, just pop a Q or question in the chat. If you see my head go that way, that's because that's where the questions are. And I am going to be walking you through. We are going to have some watercolor. We're going to talk about some watercolor techniques, and specifically today, brushstroke techniques. So this project is a combination of painting, making a paper crafting project, and doing our stamping. So let's just dive in. Hello. Hi, Stan. Hello. Good to see everybody. Lots of people popping in. So super excited. Remember, so if you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask them. Now, let's just go ahead to the overhead cam. All of the supplies are listed down below in the description. If you're watching on Facebook, they're not listed there, but they will be after the live. And I've added everything, including the elements for making the ornament, into the description. So, and all the stamp sets that I'm going to be using. So let's just do a quick look at them. The watercolor paper I'm using today is Strathmore Ready Cut Watercolor. I use this paper all the time. Many of you, I recognize a lot of our names today. You know that I use this paper. We're going to be talking about this paper a little bit more in depth as well. The stamp sets that I'm using, I brought a couple in. This is the new incentive set with Gina K called Joy to the World. And the reason why I brought this in is I'm going to use Marion Bright. But I also wanted to point out that the techniques that we're doing today, if you have a stamp set that has lots of leafery bits in it, it'll be perfect for replicating this project today. I am using the Merry Everything set. This is one of my latest releases with Gina K. We're going to be using the leafery bits from this set and also the berry bits from this set. So I'm mashing up these two sets together, but I wanted to show this to you because if you don't have a holiday themed set, I just want to point out, if you don't have a holiday themed set, you really don't have to sweat it, because all of the sets in my collection have lots of leafery bits, and several of the sets from Gina K's collection and several sets that are incentive sets have a lot of these little leafery bits, and they're going to be perfect to replicate this project. So no worries at all. Okay. Hi, Wendy. Wendy just popped in. So these are the two sets that we're going to be using. I'm also using the holiday toppers, and I'm using this one. This is the die from the holiday topper set from Gina K Designs. Love that. So I'm using that as well. All right. Now, I've got my inks that I'm using are light spruce, dark spruce, medium spruce, and this is cherry red. Now, I've talked about cherry red in the Gina K line before. That color will stain my stamp. You can see that it is kind of staining my stamp. So just keep that in mind if that's something that bothers you. It's not something that bothers me. As you can see, I've barely cleaned the stamps that we're going to use. I've got light spruce, medium spruce, and dark spruce from the Gina K line, but I'm going to be focusing on medium and dark, probably not the light. So let's just pop that out. So really you just need a light green and a darker green. Okay. All right. Here is the project that we're going to make today. But first, before we dive in, here's the, this is an embroidery hoop. And it's just kind of a small embroidery hoop. And I've cut a circle using the embroidery hoop as the stencil to cut the circle. You can use, I also had a die that I could have cut the circle with, but the circle's 4 inches wide. Okay, so that's what we're going to use. And I'm going to end up gluing that over top. And this is just a little piece of navy ribbon that I'm using. But this is what we're going to do. So we're going to be painting. I'm going to teach you some brushstroke techniques for Leafy. You can see how we use these in that base background. Then we're going to be over stamping and stamping our Leafy bits on here, and then just kind of building it up to create this really cute little ornament. It's just really fun, super simple. You could use it. This holiday series is going to be focused on creating like pieces that you, with your stamps and watercolor, that you can use for decor, or you can give as gifts. Now, this could be a great little ornament, but it could also like be a big honkin' tag that you could put on a gift. So kind of fun. All right. Now let's just dive in and talk about this paper. And then I'm going to talk about the watercolors. So the Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor, this is 100% cotton paper. This paper has kind of a smoothish, I would say smoothish side. And then the back side has a texture. And these are the texture, this is the texture from the way the paper is milled. This is the side that we're going to use today because I wanted to add a little bit of extra texture. You can just kind of see it. When you run your hands over it, it feels kind of waffle, like a waffle. That's what we're going to use. Now, all watercolor paper has 2 sides to it. Like sometimes it's a smoother side and it still feels like there's a little bit of texture in this cotton. And then we have more of a textured side. You can use both sides. Now, if you're using like a Canson watercolor paper that's not 100% cotton, you'll notice that the front of the paper is got texture and the back is super smooth. So I'll grab a sample of that just to kind of show you. Let me just grab that now. Just kind of show you because we're going to nerd out a little bit. This is 100% cotton paper. This isn't 100% cotton paper, but it's cold press. So let me just kind of show you. See how it's got some texture on this side, but the back side is super, super smooth. A little harder to watercolor on this side. Not impossible, but a little harder. Okay. All right. Let's just move that aside. Right out of the gate, we started in with the nerd out. So let's just go in. All right. Let's just go in. Now, the colors I'm using today, we could use... Gotta love the phone ringing when you're in the middle of doing a live, right? Thought that was turned off, but okay. So here are the colors that I'm using, and I'm going to nerd out a little bit. I'm using 2 colors from My Merry Blue. You could use your inks for this as well. You could use a green and a turquoise. So I've got 2 colors here. One is turquoise, one is green gold. And I love these colors. I'm just going to put a little bit down here. I've just been playing a lot with this, with the My Merry Blue. And I'm going to just show you, I'm going to nerd out just a smidge. Just going to nerd out a little bit. This palette. Often on the lives, I use these little porcelain palettes. These are like little tapas dishes that I'm going to use because I'm only using 2 colors. But I kind of wanted to show you these 2 colors. So here's the green gold and this is the turquoise that we're going to be using today. And I wanted to share this palette with you. I just recently got this palette. This is a porcelain palette. I put little feet, little felt feet on the bottom here because I don't want to scratch the glass. And my work table has glass too. But this is a really unique palette, and I just wanted to share it quickly. It's got 20 spaces. This is ample spaces, and it's very easygoing and pretty portable. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you. I have linked this palette because this was a recent find on Amazon. I've linked it in my Amazon storefront. So that link is down below in the description on YouTube if you wanted to take a peek at that. Okay, let's just move that palette over. And we're going to get started with the watercolor lesson before we start the project. So the brushes that I have today, the brushes that I'm using, I'm going to use the number 2, a number 6, and a number 10. We're going to start with the 6 and 10. And I'm going to show you, let's just go ahead and wet our watercolor a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about brush strokes. Now, in a lot of my classes in my Craft Your Joy classroom, this is one of the lessons that's like a key lesson in every single class. I'm going to grab some of this green gold. Another version of this color, another name for this color, this is the nerd out time, in other brands is called Azo Green. So you might see it in green gold being called by other names. Here it is right here in the My Mary Blue. I'm looking for my pigment. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm looking for the pigment. Sandy just shared that she liked the palette. I love it too. PY 129. It's a staining color. So PY 129. It's a 1 pigment color. Love it. I'm just going to kind of show it to you. Take and do a little bit of a swatch. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Love it, love it, love it. I would say an equivalent to Gina K inks for this green gold would probably be a mixture of jelly bean green and wild dandelion to get that color. All right, here's my turquoise. I'm obsessed with this turquoise. And a color match for Gina K ink for this turquoise would probably be one of the teals, the teal colors. These are the 2 colors that I'm going to use. Now we're going to talk first about brushstroke techniques, specifically making leafery and using the brush and the entire belly of the brush to make the leafery. And depending upon what size brush you have, you can make big leafery or smaller leafery. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of this turquoise. My brush is wet, the paint is wet, the paper is dry. Let's just pop this up. You want to hold your brush completely vertical. And then I've got the tip of the brush, and then I'm just going to bend the whole entire belly of the brush and lift. Bend and lift. And depending upon the pressure that I put, I can get different sizes. But one of the easiest ways, see how I can go from a really big fat one to a little bit thinner to a really small version of it. One of the easiest ways to do this kind of leafery though, to get big and small, is just to change out your brush a little bit. I'm going to pick up some of this green. Just kind of hold this vertically and just drop the entire belly of the brush, pull forward, and I've got that nice little piece of leafery there. And see how I'm able to create kind of a really big honking piece of leafery. So super simple brushstroke technique. This is the foundational little technique we're going to use today to create and build the base of our wreath. So I'm just going to move this to the side. Super simple. And the reason why I'm sharing this technique today, the reason why I'm sharing this really super simple brushstroke technique is because sometimes when we get started in watercolor, there's a lot of overthinking that happens. Like, oh my gosh, how do I make this? How do I draw this with my brush? How do I make this work? using your brush and doing some really basic brushstroke techniques like this, like Leafy, is a really, really easy gateway into creating a painting. So we're starting small with a really tiny technique, and we're going to build on it with our stamps. Okay. All right. So let's pull in the number 4. This is the 4-inch circle. You ever just stare at something and you're like, the word is not coming. The word is not coming. All right, we are going to, let's see, I'm going to pull in a little bit tighter. Hello, Sharon. Sharon just popped in. I'm going to use the number 2. We've got lots of friends joining us today. All right, my brush is wet. I'm picking up, my paper's dry. I'm picking up quite a bit of this green gold on my brush, and we're just going to draw a really freehand, loose line circle going all the way around the edge. And it doesn't matter if it's wonky. If the wonkier the better, in my opinion. The wonkier the better. Donna just asked a really great question. Okay, let me just even this out. She said, what are my favorite brushes? Oh boy. Okay, so my favorite brushes, I just kind of got that a little bit extra. My favorite brushes are the silver black velvet, and this is why. I'm not using them today, but this is why. So these are becoming fast my second favorite. These are Princeton Heritage brushes. They're round brushes. They hold a lot of water. They've got a good spring to them. So what you're looking for in a brush is like a brush that, see how that bounces back? That's got some really good spring to them. The silver black velvet brushes, and I'll grab one just to kind of show you. Let me grab it real quick. Here we go. So the silver black velvet brushes, these are my brushes I've had for well into like 15 years now. This is a number 6 silver. You can see that it's very well used. They come to a nice point when they're wet. They hold a lot of water. They've got a good spring to them, and I really, really like them. So I like brushes that will hold a lot of water because the techniques that I do when I paint are super washy and super wet, and I want my paint to last a really long time. So that's one of the things that you want to think about when you're thinking about your brush. So when you saw me put the green gold on here and you saw me start to draw, we really got like to right here when the paint started to I didn't have any more paint left and I had to add a little bit more paint. So that's one of the indicators of a really nice brush, is how much water it holds and how much paint it holds. So 2 of my favorites, anything from the Princeton line. So the Princeton Heritage line is newer to me, really digging it, kind of been my go-to lately. Silver black velvet, another one, really dig them. Been using them a really long time. Now, your brushes, I always say when you're spending money on your watercolor products, start with your paper first, then your brushes, then your paint. Okay, I hope that helped. I hope that helped. Great. Okay, now we're going to go in and we're going to start to build a leafy wreath around the edges of this circle. And I'm using this line kind of as my baseline. And I'm going to show you a technique where I'm going to double load my color. Okay, so my brush is wet, my paper is dry. So this is wet into dry. I'm going to dip into my green gold here and just kind of get my brush pretty saturated with it. So probably about a 2% milk version of it. Then I'm going to take my brush and dip the tip right into that turquoise because I'm double loading that color, and just for fun. I'm going to just start working the leafy around the edges. Now see what happens when you double load your color. You're getting some really interesting kind of looks. You get a little bit of a mashup. Anybody here an acrylic painter? There's lots of acrylic paint techniques where you're double loading your color. Look at that. Oh, I love that. Where you're double loading your acrylic paint to create a different look. So you can see that some of that color started to blend. I love that. So you're creating different colors. I'm just going around the edges here, and you can see this brush is holding a lot of paint. I could just keep going and going and going around it. Hi, Irma. Irma just popped in. I can keep going around these edges. I'm going to lift up a little bit of that turquoise. And I'm just creating the base here. Now this looks pretty harsh, and you might be thinking, oh my gosh, how's she going to stamp over this? We will. I'm going to show you. Just getting my leafery base going here. Oh, I'm really loving that. All right, let's just, got that mix of the turquoise. Let's just go in and grab some of this. Ah, Kathy just said double loading reminds you of decorative painting days. Yes. Oh, I've just completely blanked. Like toll painting or Donna, I think her name was Donna something. She created like that double loading painting technique. So super, super fun. Her name will come to me. I want to say Donna. It's Donna something. But she has paint line, and she's an acrylic painter, and she created these brushes and all these things to do that double loading with acrylic paint. Okay, so now I've got this double loading going. Now what I'm going to do is I've got a bottle of water here, and I just want to mist this and just let that, I was a little too far away. Let that watercolor run. I want to retain some of that look of what's happening with the leafery, so you can see that it's the leafery, but I also want it to run a little bit. Okay, I want it to run. Let's just wipe my spot down here. A bunch of people popped in. There it is. Diane said Donna Dewberry. You know what, Donna? I wanted to say Donna Dew, but I couldn't remember the Dewberry part. So I'm glad you said that. Donna Dewberry. Yep, she's the one that created all of these different that double loading with acrylic paint. Okay. You can see that the leafery is still there, but we've got this washy effect that has happened. So see why it wasn't super important or how careful I was with how I painted those brush strokes, because I was going to wet it and let it do its thing. Now I'm just going to take my heat tool, and the microphone will modulate for the heat tool, so it shouldn't be too loud for you. Taking the heat tool, and I'm just going to dry this whole thing. And see where we are. Okay. I want this to get really dry because we're going to start stamping right over top of it. And actually, I'm a little bit... Okay. I'm going to flip it. Just kind of heat it down. Okay. I'm a little bit disappointed in my painting. I've lost some of my leafery, but I've got this really great pattern, this really great base background. I'm going to go in with my number 6. I'm going to add some of that leafery back in, just really gentle and light. Just a couple spots so that I've got that texture. I've got that nice little texture in the background. But I want to be able to see some of that leafery back there. So yeah, I was a little disappointed. I kind of hit it with too much water. That's okay. I did that on the sample too. You can see that I kind of hit it with a little bit of water, but I had some pieces that show through. I really want those pieces to kind of show through. So let's just add them back in. You can see I got one right here. This is not that big of a deal. And once it dries, remember, once watercolor dries, in the back, it fades back significantly. Like the color fades back. So what I really love about that is that's what gives us some of our, that's what gives us the ability to work up and gives us the ability to add more. Oh, I added that cute little piece of leafery right there. Let me dry this. Add our stamps on top to create those layers. I'm really digging the way it's looking now. Okay. Okay, so we are really mashing up our stamps and our painting techniques. This is actually really pretty just the way it is. If you wanted to just kind of roll with it the way it is, but we're going to add more texture and dimension with our stamped images. We're going to start, let's start with our small pieces of leafery. So I've got, no, I don't want to start with my small. Did I grab my big one? No, I didn't. I'm missing a piece of leafery. Hi, Karen. Karen popped in. Thank you. Okay, I've got this piece of leafery here. We're going to start by going around. We've got quite a bit of blue and that green gold, that lighter green. So I'm going to start to come in with a little bit of the dark spruce. Okay, so the dark spruce in the Gina K line, I really love this color. Let's just go ahead and kind of stamp this out so that you can see it before I stamp it over top. The reason why I picked the spruce family is because it's green, but it's got blue in it. So it's like, it is like spruce. It's very well named because it is a spruce color. So I'm going to pick the top. I'm going to have this be the top of my project so that we can start to focus on building our wreath elements going around. Okay. Karen said, by the way, I love your nails. Okay, friends, you guys have followed me for long enough to know that I don't really do my nails, but lately I've been going and getting them done with my daughter, and it's time for us to spend together, and she kind of got me hooked on getting them done. Yeah, so it's been kind of fun. Okay, I'm going to do these in threes. So I've got this layer over top of our layers here, and I'm really loving the way that looks. So I'm going to come here, here, and over here. And we're just going to start to build our wreath. I think I'm going to love the way this looks around in these threes. Now, you can see I'm not putting this in the MISTI or anything like that to get a perfect stamp impression. We are working on watercolor, but you see, if it didn't stamp perfectly, I'm just going to take a little tip, a little bit of water on that brush and see how I can just blend that out. And we're going to do some more of that blending. And part of what we're doing here is using these inks as like a watercolor ink. I'm going to add another one right here. And we're just kind of building the wreath. We're building the wreath going around. Okay, now I'm going to come in. I'm going to start to come in with a solid. I've got these two big honkin' solid pieces that I want to kind of put up at the top here. So we're going around the wreath. I'm going to go here and then here, and that's going to be my indicator to me that that's my top. But we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm using the dark spruce again, and we used an open line version of the leafery. Now we're using a solid version of the leafery, and I'm just going to go ahead and stamp this way. And then I'm not so worried. Now look at the solid. Look at the way the solid stamps on the watercolor paper. You're going to get some of the color of the paper coming through. All right, I'm going to stamp this one this way, and it's kind of going to go off a little bit. That's okay. Digging it. Now I'm going to come in. Let's close this up. We're going to add some more leafery, but right now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of water with my brush. Just kind of activate. Got a little bit too much water there. These brushes are very juicy. We're going to activate the ink in the solids, and we're just going to use it to paint with it. See how I'm just kind of tightening that up a little bit, adding a little bit of water to it, and just spreading it out so that you see a little bit of less of the white underneath. But you can still see some of that texture coming through, but we get more of a solid. And the other thing that's really cool about this is that that dark spruce, when you add water to it, I gotta show you. When you add water to that dark spruce, let me just add a little bit of that right there. This is a pigment versus this is a water-based pigment ink. But watch when we add color, when we add water to it, that dark spruce, a lot of those blues that I was talking about start to come out. And we get that blue and that green. I just love that color. So this is a really great color just to watercolor with. You can see what I'm getting here. Last week, in the last week's live tutorial where we worked with the gourd, the funky pumpkin, I used Cascade Green from Daniel Smith. Blue Spruce is very similar to Cascade Green, and I'm digging it. Love it. All right, so we're starting to build that foundation that we've got going here with the wreath. And I'm liking it, but we need to add a little bit more. We need to add some more. Okay, we used the large open line version. I'm going to come in now with the smaller open line and go in the opposite direction. And let's try the medium spruce. Let's try it. I think that the medium spruce is going to be too light. And I am going to stamp out, we're going to stamp out some 3D elements and die cut them. But let's just go ahead in with the medium spruce and add that layer. Not too light, digging it. Love that. Might be a little too light on this side because I'm a little bit darker, but I'm loving that. So we've got, see that watercolor base layer? And then we're adding our stamped images on top. Just love this idea of being able to, where am I going to put this? Let's go this way. Let's go this way with it. So we're kind of creating some really flowy leafery here. I love this idea of mashing up your stamped images and like your watercolor painting techniques to create a project. Now you could easily do this project on a card. This could easily be your element, that you could just pop on a card if that's what you want to do. But we're going to do something a little different. No worries. Okay, now I've got these two pieces of leafery from the Merry Everything set go in opposite directions, and they're also a solid. Now I'm going to come in, let's see, I want to add them in, and I think I want to do it in the, not the light, we're going to do the medium spruce. Dawn just shared she's excited to try this. I can't wait to see what you create. I cannot wait to see what you create. And remember, friends, if you can always, if you create something and you want to post it in the Gina K Designs group, don't forget to tag me. I'm going to come right here. Just kind of fill up that hole right there with that solid. So see, we've got that solid and we have that line art open line version of the same piece of leafery, but look at the texture that we get from it. So we get a little bit of contrast too, which I find really, really nice. Okay, let's see. This one's going in this direction. Do I want that to go that way? I think I do. So let's take this one off. I really need to clean these stamps. really need to clean them. Give them a bath. They've been getting a lot of activity. We're going to be using this Merry Everything set through our holiday series. Kind of like that, but you can see that other piece of leafy that we painted in is kind of overshadowing that one piece of leaf, but that's okay. We get this visual contrast and this look of layers happening, things laying on top of each other, and this whole layered effect. Love it. And remember, Merry Everything is the set that I'm using, but you could, I know, and if you guys could raise your hand, I know many of you already have a stamp set that has a lot of leafery in it. And if you have a lot of my stamp sets, I have a lot of stamp sets with different kinds of leafery bits that are easy for you to modify and use in this way. All right, I've got this. I want to do something here, and I'm going to use that line. Do you see that line right there in the stamp? I'm going to kind of use that as an anchor point and see if, yeah, I kind of came out a little far. Okay. So it kind of came in, but you know what? I like it because we're going to be concentrating our sentiment right here. So building up some leafery pieces right here is going to help draw our eye to our sentiment. So let me just go in. I'm going to take a little bit of water here. Wendy said lots of leafery. There's a ton of leafery in my stamp collections, and I will always be creating leafery because it's fun. You can create these graphic looks, and you can create these really easygoing wreaths. Really, really easygoing wreaths. All right, I think I want something coming right here, but I'm not quite sure yet. So what I'm going to do next is we know that this is our top. So I've got a concentration of leafery happening here. We're going to do the Merry Everything sentiment right there. Kathy said a happy accident. Catherine just said, I love how the washi background is a ground for the stamping, even if you weren't liking it first. A lesson in trusting the process. You know what, Catherine? You always say the most wonderful things on our lives. Yes, it is a lesson in trusting the process. So you learn techniques, you practice them, you try them out, and depending upon what you do, like in that case, I added too much water, like I had way too much water going, but it all worked out because I could dry it and I could go back in and add another layer. So that's the kind of really super fun thing about projects like these, is experimenting and seeing what you get. And I'm already digging the way this looks. We can see our leafery pieces underneath that I brush stroked in, but we also have those two colors that are blending and meshing together and kind of creating that framework for the wreath. So super, super fun. All right, I've got Merry and Bright, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp Merry and Bright. And I did have Merry and Bright. Merry and Bright is in the stamp set, and I really like that one too. But I love this new incentive. I really wanted to work with it. So I wanted to grab it because I really feel like it's a little more organic the way it's written, and it fits in there nicely. So I'm going to let's grab our cherry red. Ink this up, ink it up really good. If you are concerned about getting a really good impression, pop it in your MISTI or your stamp positioning tool. But you know me, I'm going rogue and I'm going to wing it. I want to add that, I want to get it in here, and we're going to see how this looks. So I'm giving some really good pressure because we are working with the watercolor paper. And I did. I got a really nice impression right down in there. Love it. Love that. All right, I think we're good with the leafery. We're going to add some 3D leafery as a last finishing piece. But first, I want to add, I've got the berries. In the Merry Everything stamp set, we've got several berries. I've got a large, medium, and a small berry that coordinates with the berries that are in the big leafery tree. But we're going to use them separately today. We're going to start with the big one. Just going to pop it in a couple places. And I love that that red, look at that red. I'm just going to pop it over here, here, and I'm being very random with where I'm going to put it. Also, kind of random, but kind of like where two things meet. So that little pop of red on these outer edges, even though that pop of red, that cherry red, is layering over top of the green watercolor pieces that we did and the stamping, it's the Gina K inks are transparent, so you can see the color. You're kind of making another color. You can see the colors that are underneath shining through. It's transparent, so they're showing through, which is absolutely beautiful. Hello, Robbie. Robbie just popped in. Okay, I am going to add, we're going to add a little bit of that little berries up here. Maybe one right there. Maybe one right here. And I feel like we need one right down here. And again, just kind of random. Oh, I'm loving this. I'm loving the way this looks. Okay, I'm going to bring back in, I think we're done with the stamping on this piece for right now. I'm going to bring back in a couple, my watercolor paper. I'm going to grab this little flower, just like a little poinsettia flower, or a little, just a little bloom. You could take any little bloom, and depending upon the color ink, we're using cherry red, you can automatically turn it into a holiday flower just by making it cherry red. So it looks like a poinsettia. Love that. Okay, so we're going to stamp that out, and we're going to cut those pieces. And then I'm going to take the little leafy pieces, the open line leafy though, and I'm going to stamp 3 out in medium spruce. And then we'll die cut these. There's a coordinating die in the set. I'm just going to stamp those out 3 times. Like I said, there's a coordinating die in the set, so we can stamp them out or you can hand cut them. Let's move my inks out of the way. I'm kind of loving the way that looks. You can hand cut them, but there is a nice die in the set. Here's the coordinating die for this set, and that's one of these little guys right here. So you could just run this through your die cutter 3 times, and that's what we did. That's what I did. I wanted to keep this moving along, so I did do that part off camera, and I did cut this part. So let me bring these pieces in, and these are going to be our 3D embellishments. Now, you could just roll with this flat, not a lot of height to it. We're not adding anything to it. And there's a lot of texture already happening because of all the different layers that we've put in and the overstamping that we did with on our watercolor pieces. But I'm going to add these little pieces in because they're going to add just a little bit of extra texture and dimension without the height. I'm going to start first down here, and I think I'm going to put that right, I don't know, I don't think I want to put that there. I don't think I want to put that there. Let's see, maybe right here. I'm looking at my sentiment, and I want to be mindful of like working around that sentiment and figuring out where this might work. So let me just play here a little bit. I might put that there and let that kind of, let this little 3D piece make a connection with the Merry and Bright. Loving that, loving that. Maybe just kind of pop that right there so this just kind of draws your eye around. I really didn't want to cover this up that much. So what happens if I turn it this way? So now we're just kind of live designing, right? I think I like that. All right, we're going to take a little bit of our Gina K glue. I love this glue because it works so well with our watercolor paper. I'm going to turn this in. I really want to make that connection between this piece of leafery and the Merry and Bright. So I'm just going to hold that there for a moment. And then put a little dot of glue underneath on the back side of our little flower, our little poinsettia. And then let me just pop that right there. So we've got a little piece of leafery popping out. Let me hold that for a moment. Let's see how I feel about that. I think I like it. Let's just keep going. All right, and then I'm going to take my other 3 pieces. I think I'm going to pop a little piece up here. So we have some things kind of coming into our negative space here. And this is just adding a some 3D texture, right? We've added these little, we're using our stamped images as embellishments. I want to move that just a smidge so that it really kind of wraps around our little berries right there. And this is how my brain is working. Like, this is the designer and the product designer in me. I'm thinking, okay, I really want this to wrap around that. But this is my gift to you. This is what I can give to you. I can share that thought process of what I was thinking when I designed these products, and then what I'm thinking when I create with them. And for me, it's all about like how to make connections with the design elements. So see how we've got this connection with this leafery piece, and we've got that little tiny sprig that's kind of coming out and making a connection with the Y. And then we've got this triad of 3s. What I'm not liking is the way, and I can, because this is still wet, I can move this a little bit. I wasn't liking how close that piece of leafery was connecting to the Merry and Bright. It was a little bit too close. So I'm going to back it out a little bit. I want it to make a connection, and I want you to kind of pop off and kind of see the bottom of that M, but I didn't want it to be that close. And I love how these pieces of leafery are popping in to our negative space a little bit. So it really just kind of helps complete the shape. I'm going to pop this right on the edge here. And I'm going to let this kind of hang off. I'll let that little poinsettia hang off a little bit. Oh, I'm loving this. Now I'm loving it. We've got that base layer of the watercolor, then we've got all of our stamped images kind of popping up and adding more layers of texture. And then we have our 3D elements that add a little bit of height, but not a lot. But they're working their way into the negative space here, and they're working really nicely with this Merry and Bright. If you like to really emboss, if you like to do like gold embossing, that Merry and Bright would be beautiful on here in gold embossed. Okay, now I'm going to take this and we're just going to glue it. Really super simple, glue it right on to the wood. And then it's going to be done. I mean, how freaking cute is that? I'm loving this. Okay, now I'm going to just add a little bead of glue around the edges here. Just a little bead of glue. Really being gentle. I'm pretty heavy-handed, so I'm trying to be very gentle so that we don't have big gloops of glue. This Gina K Connect glue, or any kind of white glue that you want to use. You could even use a tape runner if you wanted to. It'll stick to wood. I think that this project would not only make a really cute like tree ornament, and I know I was calling it an ornament, but I really think it would make a really cute, like a little something extra to add to your packages. It could be your tag. So it kind of has that feeling of 2 gifts in one. You're giving a gift, and then the tag is a gift as well. It's something that somebody could keep. So you give them as the ornament. Or it just makes some really cute decor. And it was really simple, easy to do, kind of fun. You could do it. I mean, we're doing it in under an hour. You could mass produce these if you wanted to. Okay, so I've got that on there really good. Now, the bow topper. Love that. So again, I use these holiday toppers. There's a bunch of different toppers in this die set. There's a little bow and a big bow. I'm using the big bow, but these toppers right here that would be like the tops of ornaments, they're super cute. Very universal set. I'm kind of bringing this out a lot. I'm going to take and put a little bead of glue. Now I just cut this out in watercolor paper and I just added some Prussian blue, some dark blue to it because I really kind of wanted it to match up with the dark blue bow that I put on the top, the dark blue ribbon. And I'm just going to add that right there and hold it. Hold this down just so that it makes that connection to the paper. And then we've got that little bow. I mean, how cute is that? You know, let's see, it can hang up. Oh, super fun. Now remember, this piece right here, the way we created it and the techniques and the over stamping over watercolor, you could easily just use that 4-inch circle piece, plop it right on your A2 card front or your 5x7 card front. But it's super fun this way too. Okay, I got a few little dusty pieces. Now, you could also go in, I'm just using the stamps, the ink, and the watercolor and our 3D elements. But you could go in, you could add some gems, you could add some other like embellishment elements if you wanted it to be a little bit more glittery. And I'm kind of digging it the way it looks. And I think we're just going to stick with that. Okay. Okay. I got this project done in an hour. I told you it's super, super easy to do. Super fun, super easy. Loved creating it. You know what? I'm going to pop back to the overhead cam real quick and show you like the inspiration for this piece looked like this. The one on the left. Let's just, my head is kind of in the way. The one on the left. And then here's the one on the right. I am digging the one on the right. There's a more saturation of color. Did a couple other little things with it. But look, same design, 2 different ways. Every time you do it, you're going to come up with something different. So if this is something you're interested in doing for the holiday season and mass producing and giving these as gifts, because these make really great gifts, super easy to do. I did put a link down in the description on where to get these. Like I just got these embroidery hoops from Amazon, but you could get them probably in your local craft store. Easy, super easy. Okay, friends. All right. This project was so fun, and I'm excited that we did this project today to kind of kick off the holiday series. So there will be another, well, next week is Thanksgiving. So there won't be a holiday series. I'm not going to be doing, I'm not really quite sure yet. If you're on my email list, you're going to get that into your inbox. I'm going to let you know when the next holiday series video is going to be. I might be doing it. I might just try to go live on Wednesday and do it. But with all the hustle and bustle of Thanksgiving, I want to be mindful of all of our time. And you might not have time to do it. So I might have it come out the next day or the following week. Okay? Because it is a holiday. So I planned 3 videos in this holiday series, and I am going to focus on using watercolor with your stamped images to create frameable, giftable projects for the holiday season. Last year we did the tag series. This year we're doing frameable, giftable kind of projects that you can do. So we're kind of heading over into our paper crafting area a little bit. Okay, friends, I hope you got a lot of value out of today's lesson. Just going to do a real quick pop in. Everybody's saying thank you. Thanks so much for kind of sticking with me for the hour. I hope you got a lot of fun and got a lot of joy, and it's kind of got you thinking a little bit about the holiday season and maybe some projects that you might like to make for the holiday season. Okay, a couple other things that are coming up. 2 big things. First, brand new stamp set release next week, next Tuesday, with Gina K Designs, and I am so excited about it. That was a big hint. So excited about it. That's coming out on Tuesday. So next week is going to probably be occupied a little bit with video content related to that new release. So that's happening. Also, I know like everybody's doing all the Black Friday stuff and all the things. Now, I have recently closed my store, my online store. I'm going to be reopening it on Etsy next in the new year. However, I will be having a Black Friday, like a week-long offering that's going to go out in my email list next week, where I'm heavily discounting my online classes in my craftyourjoy.com classroom. So if that's something you've had your eye on, I'm going to be discounting those classes for Black Friday special. So that's happening. And yeah, so if you're not on my email list, click the link down below in the description to subscribe to my email list. I send an email once a week. And also you get like this free big honkin' flower when you subscribe. You get access to a lot more freebies that I don't share out in social media. And you'll be the first to know about all the things, which makes it kind of fun. And I also have a link down in there in that description about my free community at craftyourjoy.com. Again, another place where I add a lot of content that I don't share in social media because I'm never really sure if people see it. So, all right, friends, I see everybody saying thank you. And that, so fun. And Judith just said the lesson came at a perfect time because she wants to make ornaments. Oh, I love making ornaments. I just love making ornaments. Okay, friends, I'm going to send us out with a little bit of music. And I will see you next week. Brand new stamp set release with Gina K on Monday. Thanks so much, friends. I'll see you next week.